Welcome to lesson number 3. Lesson number 3 is about the true role of a CEO. The lesson here is if you are a solo founder, you're wearing all hats. It's vital for you to understand all your responsibilities as CEO. It is not just a fancy title. It is what drives the business forward. It is drives what your projects and dreams forward. So what does a strategic owner actually do? What does being a CEO really mean? So in here, I'm going to give you some foundations so that you understand what this role really entitles. So the first thing that a CEO is responsible for is setting up the vision and the strategy. Without this strategy, without this vision, it's almost like we're always chasing shiny objects. And then in the end of the day, we realize that we're just chasing a firefly instead of the actual core objective. It's about understanding how to have the ability to say no and yes, no to distractions and yes to the right opportunities. In a way, the challenge of being CEO is every single minute of your time, you're being faced with decision. And if for every decision you have to stop and do a pro and con analysis, a SWOT analysis, a strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat analysis, timing is of essence. You can't spend too much time to make decisions. You have to make decisions. And so setting up the vision and the strategy eliminates that extra work because you know when you're just chasing a firefly versus when you're chasing the right opportunity. You know when you're saying no to distraction and you know when you're saying yes to the right opportunities. So that's point number one, what it means to be a CEO. It's about understanding the philosophy, the vision, the strategy. The second thing you're going to do is validate the concept. Some people call MVP, some call early sales, pilots. But ultimately what you're doing here is minimizing the risk and the cost before you scale. You hear a lot of people saying, go do and pivot, a pivot is good. But once you have a team of 5 or 10 employees that rely on you, the last thing you want to do is pivot. And so how do you do that? Let's say you love to make cookies and you think your cookies are the best in the world. First thing you do is sell the first 100 cookies to family and friends, get their feedback. Then with that feedback, don't worry about profitability. Worry about understanding how good your product is. And then second thing is ask your family and friends to refer you and then sell the next 100 over referral. Now where you're testing is pricing, where your promotion works. Don't worry about channel yet and don't worry about being profitable. So now you have 3 tests. You test out your product, you test out your price, and you test out your promotion. Because just like the 4 Ps, right? Product, placement, promotion, and price. The placement part, you'll be able to test out with scale. What works today with small scale doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work out in the future when you have a bigger scale. So the job that you have as a CEO to really de-risk yourself, validate your concept, is understand how to minimize that cost before you're scaling. And so make sure that you test your price, your product, and your promotion before you even get to start hiring people. And so once you have that figured out, the third thing you're going to do as a CEO is drive growth. You're going to focus on sales and marketing. It's going back to that first point where we're saying that the job of CEO is to ensure that you create a pathway so other people can see. And so once you have figured out step number 2, step number 3 is do everything you can in terms of understanding how to generate leads, what's the cost of every lead, and what is the process. The thing that people don't tell you about the first $100,000 is that if you don't do that, if you don't understand what is the process, how to train other folks, you will not create a company. You will create a sales engine. And that sales engine is going to be bottlenecked by you. And the moment you stop working, you don't have a business anymore. And so the operator trap is make sure that you understand that you're this blueprint for other people to come and replicate so that you don't get stuck with quality of talent because you know how to produce talent. You don't get stuck that you have to market, sell, execute, and take care of customer service. And then you can't do what's important to defining what's growth of your business. So that is lesson number 3. Focus on growth and innovation, but understand you're building your blueprint. So the fourth thing that you have to do as a CEO is to ensure the financial health and really understand resource allocation. In one way, it's like this. Let's say that you know that you need to spend $1,000 to bring $10,000. If you try to cut corners, there's a very high chance that you will not bring the amount of revenue that you need to bring. And then if revenue is hurt, sometimes you don't even have cash to pay your employees. And the other hand is if you spend more than what you budget for, you may bring more money, more sales, but sometimes your team is not ready to deliver that much, or you're gonna hurt more money that it's gonna feel like you don't have enough for other sides that you need to do, like implementing a new CRM. So as you've come through your journey of testing out, driving sales, you will need all the expertise so that you ensure the financial health of your business. In a way, you have to budget everything. You have to understand what the worth of every job is. So here's what people don't tell you, right? The world's telling you, oh, you're too busy to learn this, so don't worry, hire an expert. The problem is, let's say with marketing agencies, they'll say, hey, on average, a conversion rate is 0.5. We're at 1%, so I'm 2 times more. That's why you should pay me 10 times more what the other agencies should do, because I'm delivering you a better result. But if you don't know what makes them transform for 0.5 and why the other people are 0.5 and why you're 1, you haven't done that. You be a hostage to other folks. And so the job of CEO is to learn every single skill. You don't necessarily need to be the best of it, but you need to understand how to value it so that you can understand your resource allocation, your budgets, and then you understand how to measure and manage these folks, which will lead into our next topic, which is building and leading teams. And so your fourth job as a CEO is to stick to budgets. Create the budget, stick to budget, and ensure that your business is financially healthy. Don't grow faster than you want to or have to or understand how to, and don't let the business drag for not being able to invest into generating business. The fifth thing you have to do as a CEO is to understand how to build and lead the team. As you test out your product, as you create the sales engine, now you're going to start building the people behind it so that they can help you. One of the things that I'm going to tell you that you have to learn as a CEO regardless, you have to understand people. You have to be able to read a room. You have to understand what drives people. You have to understand what culture means, how to create talent, how to enable people. In the end, being CEO, it's almost like you're being judged by every action you do. And if you do something wrong, people are going to hate you for it. On the other hand, you have to forgive your team for not being the best version of themselves. So in a way, you have to be the inspiration and you have to show that compassion and love. It's all that doom and gloom, right? In the end of the day, if you build this good balance between both, what you're going to realize is that no one's able to do anything by themselves. You always need collaborators behind you or with you to help you achieve your dreams. And so that balance, if I could say all the jobs that we've done so far of the tasks of CEO, this one's probably the most crucial one. And then number 6 is business relationship building. In the end, when you have the blueprint of how to sell, you know how to build a team, the next thing you're going to do as a CEO is build relationships. Why? Because you have to keep bringing the opportunities for this machine, the business that you've built to keep working. And so that is essentially your job. And to recap this section of what it means to be a CEO, the CEO essentially is the person that transforms your ideas into realities by de-risking, by gathering believers, and by creating and managing teams and ensuring that we're financially responsible. And then ultimately becoming the face and the brand and the business generator, building the key relationships. If I could simplify what the role of CEO is for you, these will be the 6 steps that I hope is helpful for you to understand what it means to be CEO.